Good morning. We look today at Exodus chapter 7 through 11, with combining yesterday and today's readings. And these chapters have most of the plagues, the 10 plagues that God sends against Pharaoh, who continues to have his heart hardened. And it always gives me heartache, that God, it says, hardens Pharaoh's heart, and that Pharaoh's heart was hardened against these people. But the chapter 7 starts with, the Lord said to Moses, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, like God. And that's, something we all kind of like to be, like God, or like to have a lot of power. But I've made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. Again, reiterating that Moses doesn't want to speak, so Aaron will speak the words that God gives to Moses. And it says that Moses was 80 years old at this time, and his brother Aaron was 83. And so, Aaron had been born previous, 3 years previous to the Pharaoh at that point in time, 80 years earlier, who had made the edict that, all these Hebrew males should be killed. But, and God again tells Moses, well, when Pharaoh says, what to do, well, throw the staff down and it'll become this snake. And he did that. And then Pharaoh summons his magicians and sorcerers, and they throw their staffs down and they turn into snakes as well. But Moses' snake eats the other snakes up, and it says, but Aaron's staff swallowed up theirs, but Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And the first plague that comes is the bloody river. All of the river, the Nile River and stuff, turns to blood, and all the fish die, and there's a horrible stench in it. And it says that, and I've always thought about, well, if the river is filled with becomes blood, what about the rest of it? But it says that they dig along the shores and they can find water. So it was, there, and the wells wouldn't have been contaminated that way. It says its rivers, its canals, its pond, all of its pools of water. And they did what that said. And of course, then Pharaoh's heart is hardened, but Pharaoh first says, well, you get this done, and then I'll let the people go. I'll let the Israelites go. And of course, he doesn't. And the second plague that comes then is the frogs that are just all over everything. And Pharaoh says, well, you let the frogs, get rid of these frogs. And then, but again, we know the story. Pharaoh's heart continues to be hardened. And the third plague is gnats. And the fourth plague is fleas. But with the fourth plague, there are no flies, rather, upon the Israelites. The Israelites out in the land of Goshen where they're living, they're not affected by this. And then the same thing, the fifth plague is disease. And it says it kills all the livestock of the Egyptians, but the Israelites' livestock are just all fine, and they're saved and spared. The sixth plague is boils and sores over everybody, and he takes soot from the kiln and he throws it before up into the air, and it causes festering, it says, on humans and on animals. So it's, not just the people that are affected, but they're animals. And, the livestock has all been, killed in this last plague. So this is dogs and cats and whatever else. But yet, there must have been a little bit of time between these things, or maybe the Egyptians bought livestock from the Israelites, because coming up, it'll say that, especially the seventh plague, the hail, will affect the livestock of the Egyptians. So, they have gotten some more livestock somewhere, or whatever, and, it's where maybe we don't know how much time there was between each of these plagues either. I always have thought in my mind that they were, quite close together, and I'm sure that wasn't a long time period in there, but, and most of the time then it would, God will speak to Moses, and then tomorrow I will enact this. And these are the way that things happen. But the seventh plague is hail that comes so fast and furious that if people are outside, it's devastating for them and for any livestock or any birds or anything to be around. It strips and devastates the trees and everything. And then in this, the Pharaoh sends for Moses. So somehow there's a messenger that gets back and forth and brings Moses back again then to Pharaoh. And again, Pharaoh, no, yeah, no. And then the eighth plague is the locusts that come, and they eat anything and everything else that might be left. The plants have already been stripped. It says in the Bible that the flax, and there are a couple of crops that are totally destroyed, but a couple of others that haven't matured yet or are just growing or just beginning to grow, the due season, weren't harmed yet. So there were other, even though the mature crops were devastated by the hail, the crops that were just beginning to grow and stuff were still there. So there was something there for the locusts to devour and to eat upon. And it says the locusts will come and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left. And again, Pharaoh, get this plague done, get rid of these, but it's just, I struggle with these plagues and with the issues that go on, but in a way it shows us ourselves too, because we continue to sin and do things against God, and God continues to forgive us. But God isn't putting any of these problems upon us. People will say, God doesn't give you more than you can bear. Well, God doesn't give us the heartaches and the issues. God gives us the strength to face them, the courage to go on. And, life itself can be very hard, but it isn't God sitting up there saying, I think he deserves to have a little bit more trouble in his life. No, that's not the God that I believe in. God isn't causing us troubles, but God is showing here through these plagues of Pharaoh to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians the power and the might that he has, what he's got, and God says to Moses, if I wanted, I could have sent a plague that all the Egyptians, the whole Egyptian nation, would be gone. They would be wiped off the face of the earth, but I'm not doing that. I want Pharaoh and I want the Egyptians to see my power, to see my might, to see that I am the God of the universe, the God of creation. The ninth plague that comes is darkness. And it's so dark that you can't see the hand in front of their face. And I remember being down in, I don't know if it was the Carlsbad Caverns or somewhere, that we were way, way down below ground, and they turned the lights off. And you could not see the hand in front of your face. You couldn't see anything. You could touch somebody, you could do whatever, but you could not see a thing. There was absolutely no light there at all. And one of the things that they didn't want, was kids to have these shoes that would light up as they walked, because that would be light. The total absence of light is, even in the darkest night, there is some light, very seldom we can't see anything. But the darkness was so intense that they couldn't see the hand in front of their face, but yet they needed to try to take care of their livestock. They needed to try to do things. And this darkness wasn't just, for a few minutes. This was a long-term darkness. And again, Pharaoh says, okay, but it doesn't happen. And so chapter 11 is where we have the final plague introduced. And this final plague will be when the firstborn of every Egyptian family, livestock, everything will die. The firstborn male child. So Pharaoh's heir, and they all will die. And God instructs Moses and the Israelites to take a lamb, to slaughter the lamb, to put the blood over the doorposts, and the angel of death would pass over their homes. And this was the first Passover. And so when Jesus goes to Jerusalem to observe the Passover with his parents, by himself, he's going to remember these 10 plagues, especially the 10th one, that God sent against Egypt to set the Israelites free. And on that night that we call Maundy Thursday, when Jesus meets with his disciples and shares in the Passover meal with them and says, this is my body given for you, this is my blood shed for you. It's a reminder of the unleavened bread that they were to make, because they didn't have time to let the yeast raise the bread overnight, because boom, they were going to be going. And so this chapter 11, we have Moses and Aaron coming to Pharaoh saying, this is what's going to happen. I don't know, but God says to Abraham, at midnight I will go throughout Egypt, and every firstborn of the land shall die, from the firstborn of the Pharaoh who sits on the throne, to the firstborn of the female slave, and the firstborn of all the livestock. And so, Pharaoh probably doesn't have this warning, because God is telling the Israelites, be prepared. Well, Moses is telling Pharaoh about this, and Pharaoh says, leave us, and all the people will follow, and I will leave. And in hot anger, he left Pharaoh. And the Lord says, Pharaoh won't listen to you. Pharaoh won't listen to you. And so Aaron and Moses had done everything that God had said. He'd given Pharaoh every warning that God had said. And so the very last verse of chapter 11, Moses and Aaron performed all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go out of his land. And now tomorrow we'll talk more about this final plague that comes against Egypt. But it's a reminder to us of how faithful God is to those who are to his chosen. I mean, what he's doing for Israel, what he's doing for his chosen people, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he has not forgotten them or his promises to them. And it's a promise to you and me too, that he won't forget who we are and his promise to us through his son, Jesus Christ.